welcome to Alter Ego Gaushi. This is your girl Gaushi signing in. Today's video is all about personal finance tips for dummies. It's a super basic edition. Firstly, if you like the video, make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel, and finally turn on the channel notifications as well, and also follow all my social media platforms. All the links are available in the description box below. Without much further ado, let's jump straight into the video. Tip number 1, what does life cost? Did you know on average it costs £229,000 to raise a child up until the age of 18? Did you know it costs a lungs and a liver to buy a 3-bedroom flat within the London region? What I mean by this point is you need to know what the living costs are within the UK. Otherwise, how would you set yourself up for success? Tip number 2 is, what does your life cost? Everyone's needs and wants are totally different. In order to find out yours, write down what you want to achieve in the next 5-10 years and make a feasible plan to do so. Having a rough idea of how to achieve them would set you up for success. Tip number 3 is knowing your cash. Not only knowing how much your monthly income is, but your monthly expenditure too. Your expenditure is actually composed of 2 elements, which are your wants and your needs. Your needs are everything that you have to pay for every single month without fail. Otherwise, you will face the consequences of not doing so. So these are things like grocery bills, utility bills, your monthly subscriptions, anything that you have to pay must be paid first. And the other thing is wants. Wants are everything that you can afford not to have. So this could be things like your shopping for clothes or your leisurely activities like your cheeky takeouts. Tip number 4 is create a budget. After knowing your cash, create a budget. Formulate a plan that you will stick to. And what I generally tend to follow is the rule of thumb of the 50-30-20 rule, which ultimately is spending 50% of it on your needs, 30% on your wants, and 20% in your savings account. But I do it slightly differently. What I do is I set aside money for my needs first, and then have a weekly budget and save whatever I have left into my savings account. My 5th tip is emergency funds. Everyone should have accounts for an emergency fund. So say for instance, if you were to lose your job tomorrow, God forbid that doesn't happen, you should be able to survive for 6 months without any source of income. Now this normally is about £3,000. Obviously the higher you have it, or a better financial status you will be in, ultimately your emergency funds should only be used for emergency. The name states it itself. It doesn't mean you can go on a shopping spree to Selfridges and spend it on a £200 bag, which I have been guilty of. And try and stack as much money up as possible, because you never know when you need it. Tip number 6 is savings made not so scary. So ultimately, you should be saving 20% of your income into savings. That is the minimum target. Obviously, the higher it is, the better financial status you will be in. Be realistic with your savings goal. If you're on a 23k salary, don't expect to save 50k within the first year, because that is not going to happen. So set yourself monthly targets, weekly targets, yearly targets, and be realistic as possible. Another tip I have is make sure you let your savings sit in an ISA account. You will accrue interest. Any free money is good money for you in the future. So make sure you do that as well. Tip number 7 is build your credit score. You think Mike from Mortgages is going to give you a loan just like that to buy a brand new property without adequate repayment proof? Absolutely not. So in order to do that, you need to build your credit score. The way to do that is by getting yourself a credit card. That doesn't mean go on a spending rampage as soon as you get a credit card, because that's not the purpose of it. The purpose of it is to improve your credit score. To do that, ultimately, try and use, 30% of your limit. The golden rule should be repaying your credit card in full by the next repayment. If you're not doing that, you're going to get yourself into debt, and credit card interests are not worth it. Trust me, friends, it's not worth it, and you're going to be repaying forever and ever and ever, and it's only going to increase. So avoid that at all costs. Just using a credit card is going to improve your cash flow. If you can't afford something that you really, really want, like sometimes that Chanel bag is so worth it, or that Nike trainers is so worth it. Number 8 is, no one is made money just like that on a 9-to-5 job. Invest your money. Tip number 8 is invest your money. Use your disposable income to invest in stocks and shares that will see you get higher rates of return than if it was to sit in an ISA account. Start by getting your feet wet by inputting as minimal disposable income as possible, maybe £50 or £100 or whatever the limit may be for that particular site, and get yourself used to what investing stocks and shares would be. My advice would be to go for a low risk and a high dividend return. So this could be like Amazon or Disney or any of the others, but again, use your own research to find out what's best for you. Number 9 is contribute to your pensions. Most occupations actually match your input, so why the hell don't you have a pension plan? Did you know that 31% of the UK population actually don't have a private pension plan and rely on the state's pension plan? And this is not sufficient enough for your living, because us millennials have a great expenditure, and in order for us to have a healthy retirement, we need to make sure that we have a pension scheme in place. The final one is life insurance. If you do have kids or if you have anyone else dependent on you, make sure you have a life insurance in place. This will make sure that they are secured if you were to pass away. God forbid that doesn't happen, but these things are very, very, very important for you to have to make sure that your kids will be safe. Thank you to everyone who tuned in today to watch my video on personal finance tips for dummies, super basic edition. I hope you have enjoyed it and learnt quite a few things. Until next week, it's your girl Gaushi signing off from Alter Ego Gaushi.